Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Overwatch League. Hope your Saturday's been fantastic, and we are far from done here, league side. I'm Mitch Leslie here with, actually, it's just Matt Morello. It's just the normal casting pair from us today. I don't want to get anyone too excited.
I thought you were going to announce me as somebody else. I was like, wait, I was like, oh, no, I
considered
here.
it, but I was trying to come up with someone who would be like a mild insult, but not too bad, and I just couldn't think of anything nice to say, so I just referred to you. Matt, we've got the Boston Uprising.
That makes me feel great going into today's game.
All right, so I've given you a bit of a pumper. Look, let it never be said that I don't gas up my teammates, you know what I mean? But we've got the Boston Uprising versus the LA Gladiators. Both teams who could use a bit of fuel in the tank. The Gladiators got theirs yesterday, of course, with their victory over Dallas. The Boston Uprising is still looking to snap a long lost streak, sorry.
Well, we have seen Boston beat the Gladiators in the past. You remember when Boston
they've never lost to the Gladiators, man.
Yeah, when they picked up Punk. I mean, look, there's a time for all streaks to end. I mean, this may be it, but when they picked up Punk, they were able to get a victory over the Gladiators. So we've seen Boston have success against this team in the past. Although I would say I don't think the Gladiators will come in here and probably take Boston as light as they've taken them.
No, it's unlikely. And one of the reasons for that, Matthew, might be the individual known to many, and me as well, as Jerry, who's looked extremely good over the course of his time with the Boston Uprising. A real standout player on this roster. I love, actually, that we're using a head-to-head here on Ashe. This is an Ashe head-to-head. And you can see, just the amount of damage he's providing. Birdring, though, had one of the most insane individual performances that I've ever seen from him yesterday. Better than his year one sort of debut year performance. The guy was absolutely insane. And he reminded me of Carpe, in the way that he clutched out some of these rounds. And I think that's a fair comparison to make.
I think the inaugural season playoffs, Birdring was incredible on the Widowmaker. So I think this is just a little bit of we haven't seen it in a while from Birdring in this type of epicness, I would say. And when we look at those head-to-heads, I know Jerry has the best in a few key categories, but I would also say that Color Hex probably has not provided as much damage in the secondary damage dealer role as, let's say, like a Mirror or a Kevster has, right? Okay. Where I think both those players have been really strong for the Gladiators. So we can take a look at the Gladiators starting roster today. Kevster, Birdring, in terms of the damage dealers, OG in space, and the tanks, and then we always know what the support crew is going to be, right? Big Goose and Shaz back there holding it down.
Unless Mirror's playing Brig. But
or Mirror's playing Zarya, right? If Zarya is in the hero pool, I mean, you kind of look at Mirror thrown all over the place.
In hindsight, I guess Mirror actually kind of got nerfed by this hero pool because both Zarya and Brig, the only ways that he actually flexes to other roles are out of or unable to be selected
Genji, right now.
So,
yeah,
Genji's out of the pool. I mean, Kalahek probably breathed a sigh of relief. Genji not in the hero pools. He's always looked like he's a little bit more comfortable on Pharah or Reaper, for example. So he might have a chance again to show us a little bit more of the depth of his hero pool instead of just having to play Genji. But here we go. Make no mistake, the Gladiators have never beaten the Boston Uprising. You say, Matt, there's a good chance that streak gets broken today, but Boston they're looking for that third victory still here in this season.
You got to think that D-Pay is really hyping the Gladiators up, that they have the opportunity to get back to 500, right? Get to 9-9 with a win here today against the 2-17 Boston Uprising. You think this would be a huge game for the Gladiators, that they would really kind of put all of it into it. The Gladiators 5-1 on this map. Boston is yet to win it. All signs point towards the Gladiators today, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, the Gladiators are finding themselves, Matt, in a kind of a familiar spot, right? Being really close to 500 on the cusp. They're definitely eyeing off a playoff berth, and they really need squeaky clean finishes like they got against the Dallas Fuel, even though that was a little dicey at times. They definitely need a W here. They're not underestimating the Boston Uprising. And Carla Hex may have an opportunity to play an old favorite of his, the Junkrat, combined with the McCree. So not an uncommon setup here. The Gladiators want to go with the Mei, though.
Yeah, both teams run the Lucio, so they want to get aggressive, almost like how Sideshow was comparing it earlier to like the Reinhardt rush comes, but you're playing it with the Orisa Sigma instead of Rein Sigma for a little bit more staying power. Looks like Boston was going to go try and get the high ground. They get beat there with a nice Mei wall that came in from Kevster. So this is going to give Birdring all of this control.
I mean, this is dangerous when Birdring's set in this position. Color Hex can barely peek to try and get damage done. Punk almost got caught out there and had to go for an immortality field, had to sit under it, and a kinetic grasp from him does keep him standing. The Gladiators have already captured the point, though. This is where things get a bit messy, though. Maywall comes off, and it doesn't split anyone from Boston away. All of the team had already committed to the point, but losing their front line of first. Fusion's down, Myungbong's second to go, and the Uprising are going to fall apart here.
You lose Fusions, and then when you lose Myungbong, I mean, losing your Orisa and your Batiste here, right? Just think of everything they provide to the team. You're not going to last much longer. You did have to use an Ant Matrix for the Gladiators, but if Boston comes back, uses like Ant Matrix here, you have a Blizzard you can throw in the way. We see a lot of nice tech where the Ant Matrix goes down and you can kind of put a wall to split it off or a wall to just block the damage that could come through. So a lot of ways to combat that.
Welcome everybody back to the Overwatch League. Please don't ever leave us again. I don't know what I would do without you all out there.
We casted that so epically.
It was good. We were on point. That was one of our better showings, I think.
And,
now,
you know, we were breaking it down in between the rounds, and then our producer's like, you guys are great, but nobody heard that. But the desk did a nice job pointing it all out, and we get it on pause, and we get right back into it.
We are back, yeah? City Center's going to be our second round. So if you're just joining us, thank you, first of all. We already had one round here on Oasis, and it was the Gladiators that had a fairly straightforward time of it. So now we'll see what City Center has to offer us. In compositions, we get a bit of a mix-up. Now the Uprising go towards a Sombra Echo common. They do have a Mercy to back Color Hex up, so let's see what they can do. There will be contesting with Birdring's McCree still.
You know, they say that the kind of stall playing the neutral didn't work for the Boston Uprising. Let's try and play aggressive. Play around the Winston Diva with the Echo damage. Try and follow up on maybe some of these hacks that Jerry can get. Although playing with a Mei and a McCree, very dangerous for the Sombra.
Absolutely. Jerry needs to be very careful not to get caught as he tries to make a foray into the backline. Who's he going to hack as well? Gets booped away by Big Goose. His life is going to get a little harder. We'll start with the Boston Uprising, at least in control in terms of positioning. Immortality Field has to be used early. Infusions did well to identify an opportunity to pressure Birdring down. Doesn't get the kill, though, when Boston never really touched the points. They give control of the Gladiators early.
I was going to say as well, for the Gladiators, it's tough. No, it's not intentional. For the Gladiators, it's tough to run down the opposing team because there's not like a stationary target to be ran down. The first kill in the fight, yeah, this is just going to be some stagger here. The first kill in the fight came from space on a Color Hex, set up with a Halt Accretion, and then some shots that came in from Shaz. So you have the Gladiators take the point first. This is particularly bad for Boston as well, because this point is usually very difficult to flip, and if you do flip it, it takes a very long amount of time.
And man, this composition, the reason why Boston gave up point control early is because they don't have any shields, so they can't really stand out in the open, which means the Gladiators just put the Orisa shield down and tell the Boston Uprising, come to us. It's, you know, the onus is on you to make the move. And that's still the case here, right? Boston have to make a play to weaken the Gladiators before this fight really begins.
And let's see how the Gladiators play around this EMP that's going to come through. You think Jerry ends up using it? Maybe you get a nano here onto Fusions. That's exactly what goes down.
Gonna get space, but there's an immortality field that prolongs the life of the Sigma enough to at least get a trade. Birdring gets rid of Fusions now, so the Uprising without their main tank. It's Punk who now has to step up in Fusion's absence. By the way, Fusions did have a Primal Rage to make this more competitive. Kepster has to ice block there to avoid getting hacked. He actually avoids a bit of that sticky bomb damage doing so. So I guess 2 for 1, he'll take that, and Birdring is wreaking havoc. No one's looking at him right now, but he was watching everybody and causing so many problems for the Uprising, who fall further and further behind.
This may be a one-fight game. Now the Uprising, they have to come in. You're going to lose Jerry here, so you don't even have a chance of farming up an EMP. This is pretty bad for Boston.
All right, the Gladiators have a sound barrier. They have plenty to work with here, but they need to touch the point. Fusions is going to use that Primal Rage that he was forced to save earlier on. And Birdring is just playing very safe around the corner, hoping for some big damage, not necessarily a kill with the Deadeye, but finds very little. As usual, Boston are playing out of line of sight, but Halo's in deep trouble. If he drops, he's down. Goes to half health in midair. You know it's an insta-kill when he hits the dirt. Space puts another one 6 feet under. Jerry falls by the wayside, and now the Uprising have no choice but to let down their hair from the high tower and fight on the point. And it doesn't look good at all. Color Hex hit with an accretion. His space just does a quick 180 and hits that. And the Uprising there looked to be, much more in disarray than the first round. The first round, Matt, already wasn't a great look for Boston. They are definitely going to have to up their game if they want to contend here with Los Angeles.
Yeah, the stagger on the first fight was really what decided the game. They didn't have everybody die to like 40% in favor of the Gladiators. They had to wait. We get another fight with about 60 to 70% on the clock with an EMP in play. They don't win that, and it's over. It's really just a one-fight game, pretty much, that the Gladiators, they withstand the EMP. There's not enough damage, even with the nano boost onto the Winston to follow it up, for Boston to take over. So the Gladiators look pretty strong here at map number 1.
It's wild to me that we have seen quite a few teams that really try and make this Winston composition work, but a lot of the teams that we've seen attempt it have often lacked the cohesion and coordination that they've needed. And I'll be honest with you, this is not really anything super new for Boston. One of the reasons why we saw Color Hex on Genji in the past struggle to get much done is because there wasn't a lot of space created for him when Boston were trying to play dive around that. So their composition now looks slightly different with an Echo, but they're still trying to play, with the Winston as a main tank. And you see what happens, right? Fusion sits on top of the Pergola at the start of that round, but none of the rest of his team can actually step onto the point. So immediately they give the point for free, and then they stagger a really long fight. I mean, it went from bad to worst almost instantly for Boston in that round.
Yeah, well, there's just a lot to control the Winston or the D.Va when they go in to dive. You have a Mei wall that can block out if the Winston leaps in or the D.Va flies in, multi-freeze, halt, flashbang, accretion. You can't stay in for long, but you don't have enough damage to kind of power on through. I think it'll be very difficult if Boston tries to play this in the remainder of the series, but I think Boston is kind of searching for a style going into the playoffs, where we haven't really seen them have the teamwork to play, the real kind of, I would say, I guess, standard, like double shield, right? So maybe work on some type of dive. You mentioned Color Hex with his Genji play. Like, as an individual player with, like, just the mechanical skill, like, Color Hex has a good Genji.
I mean, how many accounts does he have in the top 5 on rank?
Oh, it's like three, I think. And a lot of them are just Genji. So seeing him kind of struggle on this team, I think it's really just teamwork overall. We know these players are good for the Boston Uprising. We just have not seen them play well together. Birdring is a player we've seen play good in the past, and as of late, the McCree really working out for him.
I mean, this is a particularly good showing from him with 7 minutes on McCree and 9 final blows. Remember, 1 final blow per minute is kind of like the standard for DPS players that are really starting to perform. He exceeded that. He looked extremely good. Anytime we were watching players from Boston and they weren't looking at Birdring, Birdring was causing problems for the rest of the Uprising. So now we've gotten a taste, Matt, of 2 looks from Boston. We've got the double shield setup we saw in the first round. Then we got Winston D.Va. Neither of them look particularly good, but as we head to Eichenwald, there's an opportunity to play either of those. Even that Pharah, which is something that we really liked from Color Hex in the past. Echo can also fill that same spot, but on defense, maybe pairing that sort of Color Hex Halo combo might give us some leeway here for the Uprising.
And realistically, Boston sitting at 2-17, you need to start developing for the playoff in the future, right? And winning the game is obviously great, it's ideal, but it's not really going to change the dynamics of their season, where, like, let's say the Gladiators win this, they win some of their next games, like, you may be able to pass somebody, avoid somebody that you could have lost to at the top. Where Boston, I think it's just about trying to figure out how you can win some of these games. So put some compositions that you've been practicing into the live match setting, see how they go, see what you can improve on, and try and upset somebody.
So you see there the stats, Boston. This used to be, in my opinion, like one of their best maps if we go back, a season or two. I really liked them on Eichenwald. So far this season, though, they've had no luck on this map. I mean, you want to call it luck, call it anything else. They are winless currently on Eichenwald. So they are going to play Jerry on the Ashe. We highlighted him at the start of the broadcast, Matt, or at the start of this match, is like a shining light, an opportunity for Boston to actually put some pressure now on players like Kevster or Birdring. It's going to be Widow, Ashe potentially. Surely Kevster switches this.
Nah, Kevster will play they'll play the Mei. This is just a really good rush comp where you're able to use Mei with her sustainability, almost like a third tank, wall people off, be brawly with the Lucio. and then have that damage output at range with the Ashe. This is one where you can just run it down. Boston, they'll play Myungbong here on the Zen, so you try to bring in some extra damage here from the Uprising.
Birdwing's just spotted Myungbong there on the Zenyatta. I think Myungbong knows that Birdwing's flanked around now. The Gladiator's able to stay out of poke range, and they've already gotten to the point. Good sign for them now if they can keep themselves healthy and start to push further towards Boston with this Lucio. That is a big point of difference between these teams' composition. That, of course, and the May being there for the Gladiators. They want to close the gap on Boston, and Jerry doesn't want to allow this to happen.
And Jerry's gotten like 2 to 3 big dynamites here to get up to almost having a bomb already, but it may not even matter. His front line's getting run down, yeah.
I may not have it in time. Color Hex goes down to Birdwing, eventually gets picked out of the sky in space. Yes, he will pressure Punk down. Kester may be removed here, but the Gladiators get what they came for, and despite Jerry doing a frankly ridiculous amount of damage with that dynamite, he's at 35% of his team's damage so far, more than anyone else on the battlefield by double. It's still not enough.
They're not able to capitalize on it. No, he got a dynamite when they were over towards the left-hand side of the point. They wrapped inside, you know, of that little kind of cafe area, and then they get hit with another dynamite. Then they have to go into the back to Gladiators and wait it out. And Boston not able to capitalize on any of that damage that Jerry putting down. So a lot like what the stat card we looked at earlier, right? A lot of damage coming down from Jerry. It's still not resulting in team fight wins though for the Uprising.
Jerry, pressure on Big Goose there, who can obviously just crossfade to healing and probably shrug off most of that dynamite damage, but he's letting him know he's there. Bob is still available, which could be very potent on this high ground, not just the knockup, but also if the Gladiators try and engage with this rush comp, as they're known to do with Lucio, if it turns out there's a Bob behind him, they're going to regret that decision immediately.
Well, they can't exactly rush the up top of the castle because they didn't have Big Goose in play. Big Goose getting close now. That'll be Amp Matrix drop there from Halo, but it's blocked by the May wall.
Okay, I like this. Color Hex drops down. Sigma gonna look for space now, and he knocks him off the edge with what looked like an accretion. So Color Hex saw that no one was pushing the card, so he goes to the high ground, makes a play, and then pushes the Gladiators down to push the cart. I guess that was what happened.
He forced them off of the high ground. All right, Boston still maintains control of the high ground. The Gladiators, they try and force maybe a rotation down with some pressure on the card, but Boston, they obviously know at that point they don't need to. You still have Jerry up here on the high ground putting down damage. Still has the Bob. The Gladiators just assembling ultimates. They'll have all 6 coming into this next fight. You can get aggressive on the high ground, maybe use your Amp Matrix there, Supercharger on the cart, maybe try and get, like how we've seen Big Goose in the past, you know, without an ultimate, being able to just get up to the high ground, boot players down, get control of your high ground for the team that way.
So the Gladiators now, after sort of being shunted off the high ground, look like they may go for something similar again. The card isn't at such a position where they can just sort of go straight to it. They need to deal with the threat on the bridge. A gigantic gravitic flux on the Gladiators. They do at least get a sound barrier off in time. And now an Amp Matrix to help Bob just held his opposite number. The Gladiators come out on top. Fusion's mowed over. And that was a huge part because of the window that Shaz sets up and Birdwing sits behind it, just pelting away at those opposition tanks. Boss man, I need to dress up to celebrate adequately the size of this huge dub.
And I think the best part for the Gladiators as well is now they'll have Supercharger and Gravitic Flux for the bridge here. So Supercharger even better than, let's say, like an Amp Matrix in this position, because you see OG can drop it up top there and you can get everybody that damage boost. And you see Space watching one door, you have Kevster looking at the other. You may not even need to use your Gravitic Flux right now. You can probably hold on to it.
You look at the Supercharger does when an Orisa is actually able to spend time just trying to get headshots. That was filthy nasty. And the Gladiators now, still with a decent amount of time left considering this map. Oh, the main walk denied! That is a heartbreaker still. They're able to contest just in time. Fusion breaks through. The Immortality Field has to be used by the Boston Uprising now, but they lose the big guns. Jerry goes down at the start of the fight because Birdwing just sits in the background and just chooses whatever target he pleases. The Uprising were always on the back foot coming into a fight like that because they were just trying to stall and get onto the cart before another checkpoint was given up.
Yeah, and I wonder if you have to switch off of the Echo. Like, you have Duplicate, which maybe kind of bring in for this fight, but really I don't think it's gotten the type of value you would have expected it to get. I think, obviously, Color Hex would rather be playing something like a Tracer or a Genji. Both are gone in terms of hero pools for the week. And we talked about it in the past where his Mei, he hasn't looked the best on Mei, so maybe they don't want to play this style. But I think Echo is really going to get exposed, just you know, the overall kit here at the end of the map.
OG takes a bit of damage into his Discord with sticky bombs on him, so he just backs up and gets healed quickly. Another ramp matrix for Shaz, and Kevin says, come on, why don't you step here onto the cart and contest this and more the Uprising do, because what other choice do they have? But Bob just gets a 3-player RKO as he comes in off the top rope, and the Gladiators end the push with 2 minutes and 8 seconds on the clock, and the Uprising, it's like walking into the ocean at that point. They know they have to dive headfirst into that blizzard, and they probably knew it wasn't going to go well.
Yeah, and when the blizzard comes out, they use Bob to just kind of barrel through 3 players. So really nice setups from the Los Angeles Gladiators and the Boston Uprising. We'll see what they have, what they can bring on their attack. At least now it looks like Color Hex covering the Mei. I think that would be a way better pick than running like the Echo. I don't think they got enough out of Echo to really see a reason to use it again.
2 minutes.
I think too, and you're not going to run the Echo, when you're not going to run the Mercy with Echo, and then you know, playing it against like a Ashe, somebody as good as like Bird Ring plus like a Batiste, right? Where you know, we've seen Shaz be able to really put big hero damage numbers, whether it be Batiste or Zen. You're not exactly setting Color Hex up to succeed, I think.
Here's a question for you, right? We're seeing a lot of like Orisa paired with Lucio in these, we're calling it rush compositions, right? Do you think now, once Orisa's hold radius gets reduced like it is on live, does it when Reinhardt sort of take her place and we actually get to see that like that super aggressive like step past the shield and Earth Shatter style, or will Orisa sort of be the mainstay in this setup?
I think you'll probably see Reinhardt rise up a bit, because there's also other Orisa adjustments with that. The amount of armor plus the halt, right? Halt is used to set up a lot of this. Halt and Dynamite, the halt accretion. Yeah, being able to like track an Echo out of the sky. I don't know how Orisa fares with all of that gone from her kit.
Well, for now, it is Orisa as the fulcrum of these compositions. And again, the Gladiators, they love, I mean, it's big through some Lucio, right? What more could you ask for? But they really just want to try and close the gap. They know they have less healing, so they don't want to stand out in the open against the Uprising. So the more the Gladiators can just let Boston come to them, they can stay out of LOS like this, May wall if needed. They can start the fight properly. Punk is looking pretty swole after that kinetic grasp, and Birdring is trying to play an off angle himself. As long as he doesn't get caught, this could be devastating. He gets Jerry with a headshot, and Space is in a safe spot to control, but there it is. Color Hex finds Birdring with the Discord Orb and beams him down.
Yeah, you got the Discord Orb down there, like you mentioned, and then Color Hex able to get 2. Now you start to see the Echo start to pay off as they're able to break this setup. Now you have Kepster going and playing Sombra, so this you should be able to, like, if you get a hack on the Echo, right, loses all movement capabilities in the air, the focusing beam to burn players down. This should be a little bit easier for the Gladiators to even deal with it.
This is nice. Look at that Discord Orb focusing beam combo. I mean, that was Myeonbong and Color Hex all the way to the bank. Nicely done by the Uprising.
Already, yeah.
Do you think that the Gladiators need to play the Lucio setup on defense in that scenario, though, right? Like,
yeah, you want to, if you're going to play the Mei as well, you kind of have to play the Lucio to close the gap. The idea is to get the Mei wall down and then rush on through. They're just not able to execute.
Gotcha. So the Gladiators do suffer for having less healing throughput capacity, I guess. But now, look again, they want to push up. They get rid of Halo first, and look at the first 3 kills here. The Gladiators focus down the priority targets. We get both supports and fusions in the first 3. And they get, this time, value out of the Sombra. But is the idea the same, Matt? Is Kevster, much like the Mei, just setting up a hack and saying to the rest of the Gladiators, let's push in when one of their players is incapacitated?
Yes, and when you mentioned that they do have the lower healing output, that is true. The thing here is, though, that if the fights go long, the Gladiators are most likely going to lose them anyway, with the composition they have. So the idea is to use the Lucio, get in, burn a player or 2 down, and get out. It's not to kind of have a really sustainable comp that's going to last a while in these neutral fights.
In fairness, I think with Lucio's amped up, they probably have more healing in those windows, right? I mean, Zen's not going to be AoE healing very much. He'll just help you with the Discord damage and obviously Transcendence. So
Transcendence, so yeah, I mean, the Transcendence is massive.
Yeah, big in these fights, especially. Well, I mean,
a lot of Big Goose is a lot of Big Goose's job is also speed, right?
Yeah, and also
you see him sitting on speed.
Oh my God! I just hear somebody yelling in the distance, Timber! Oh, Big Goose. Starring in Kesh's new hit single.
You can't do that,
baby.
No. You know what? You know what it reminds me of, and it's going to be a total meme. Remember Agility's on Rialto?
Yeah.
From World Cup. Agility's playing Lucio with the boobs.
Oh, look at this. The sound barrier is there as well. Big Goose gets a bajillion ult charge, fighting for quick kills like that. The Gladiators were able to stave off most of the gravitic flux effect. Space somehow stays alive here, but I mean, OG's in deep trouble. Fusion's eventually able to work him down, and Space is probably cackling to himself as he backs away, considering what the Gladiators just inflicted on Boston. But
I mean, you're totally fine with this, though, if you're the Gladiators. You burned a ton of clock. They had to use ultimates to just get out of their spawn door. You're sitting real pretty, right? 2 minutes and 26 on the clock. Gladiators with Lucio in the mix, and Sombra gets probably 2 to 3 fights out of this. So you're still in a spot where the Gladiators can burn a ton of clock here.
Right, that gravitic flux is devastating, though. Yeah, you saw Jerry didn't have to take too much damage in midair to ensure the kill. And yeah, oh my, the knockback was brutal. The Gladiators are going to be sitting pretty for the time being now, and again they push up and establish that more forward position, right?
That's where their comp is going to be successful. You can't let this end Discord put down damage at range. You want to get right in his face, run him down. You see, I mean, you're even poking through the spawn door here. You can't let Big Goose get one of these boops again. You can't go out that
I mean, there was
side.
There's quite a lot involved in that, right? It was like, what, Hulk, gravitic flux, boop. It was quite the combo. Okay, Kevstar being able to force Color Hex away there. They tried to back tap.
They use an amp matrix to try and get out of their spawn, and they end up just getting run over.
Yeah, the Gladiators now are just going to sit here. And I mean, they can play up close enough to break line of sight. And I guess with Lucio, right, like this spawn camp option really actually seems to be much more viable now. You've got 2 shields, a decent amount of healing, immortality field, Lucio speed, and environmental kill potential close to the enemy spawn. This is perfect for the Gladiators.
They give them enough, they give them just enough space to make it out of the spawn, and then as soon as the Gladiators realize they have enough space to capitalize, they just run them down. All right, well, this would be the greatest back half of all time. That's not going to happen.
Kiwi Jesus, he rolls away the stone, Matt. You know, on the 3rd day, he finds his way to the cart, but still unfortunately gets put down.
So what it does is it does like give some space here for Boston to at least get out of their spawn.
Okay, they've got a lot to work with
just
here, though,
putting pressure on the cart.
Boston have, some key ultimates here. They got 23 seconds. Transcendence is up. They've got Bob.
Double support ult, though, for the Gladiators.
Well, Punk gets hit with a gravitic flux, but it's only really him. He gets hacked, but there's still an immortality field in play.
Space on the
wraps
flank.
around. I mean, yeah, he uses the mobility from his own flux, then he gets there. Okay, it's OG caught in midair, goes down. Big Goose also removed, and an opportunity now manifests itself for the Boston Uprising. They've willed it into existence, but they need to control it. No, Color Hex gets brought down. Will there be someone else to step up? Is there no one else? And the Boston Uprising, tantalizingly close to the card, was Punk, but he couldn't touch and keep the mat going. And the Los Angeles Gladiators take another confident stride forward with a big victory on Eichenwald.
It is a pretty heads-up play there from Kevster at the end. So what happens there is Color Hex is going to end up contesting the cart. He sees one of the support players in front of him. I believe it's Shaz shooting through like an amp matrix. Assumes he'll be able to get a kind of hack off of him. Right behind him, though, is Kevster, who hacks him while he's trying to do it. And they just turn and burn him, and nobody from Boston able to get close.
Well, there you have it. The Uprising, again, have a lot to talk about going into the break now. We've seen, both sort of standard looks from them. It looks like they haven't really prepared a double shield with Lucio set up here, one that can sort of pressure. And maybe we just see them struggle in how their compositions tend to interact with what we kind of see to be a stronger setup right now. If there's any chance for you to use Lucio speed boost gainfully in Overwatch, it's very hard to beat. One of the most powerful abilities in the game. Enough about my take on it. Let's hear what the experts have to say as we head over to our Watch Point game break to break all the action down. We'll see you on the other side.
Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. Hello and welcome to our game break presented by Pringles, Wavy, Zoe Costa and Reinforce at your service to break down all the action. Currently, the Gladiators sitting on a very comfortable 2-0 lead. So let's talk about that squad because so far, they've just looked very comfortable with this current meta. Have you seen any cracks in the armor, anything which somehow indicates that they haven't really found their footing yet in this meta?
I actually really like what I've seen from them. Me and Johnny have talked about it in the past. In the Countdown Cup, we were like, the Gladiators, they feel like they've improved a lot, but they played against three of the hardest teams in the league thus far in the NA region. So it's been really good to see them come up against the Dallas Fuel and the Boston Uprising and really just sort of show their prowess and their adept ability to have team coordination and play the aggressive style that they really want to play. And that's really awesome going into the playoffs and looking forward. The real interesting thing is they play Mayhem coming up next Friday, and I'm interested to see if this is going to be able to keep up because the Gladiators' issue has always been it's not beating the weaker teams, it's contesting against the higher teams.
Yeah, I think it's noteworthy as well how many styles they've showed us, because yesterday, of course, they played against Dallas Fuel, who played a lot of Pharah, and they had to counter that to really shut that down. And today we're seeing Kevster on this May, and they're really making it work. I mean, it's, you know, pretty flawless play against the Boston Uprising. They're really, you know, giving it to them. But then at the same time, when you consider this team, we often talk about OG's Winston and how they're better with dive compositions, etc. And we have seen some teams actually play the Echo and play the Winston. So we might even see the Gladiators opt for that on some maps as well, where maybe they want to put OG on the Winston, maybe Mirror on the Echo and someone with him. So like, the fact that Gladiators have now improved universally and they look better as a team, but they also can show so many different play styles. This is really promising going into the playoffs, and I feel like the Gladiators are sort of coming alive. I don't want to, hype them up too much because they are playing the Boston Uprising and the Dallas Fuel, but I do feel like they are improving steadily in a lot of different factors that involves the team.
It's definitely good to see them dominating in those must-win matches they are playing. And overall, just as you said, across the board, a very, very good performance we're seeing there from the Gladiators. Yeah. Of course, the question remains, since they've not been tested, if there is more pressure on them, how will they fare? How did they fare, I guess, historically, once they were up against, a more even opponent, Costa?
I feel like when they start to be pressured more and everything doesn't go perfectly well, they get very disjointed with their teamwork. Yeah. And that's what we usually see. And that's why OG's deaths are generally incredibly high, is OG is trying to do something aggressive while no one else is really able to follow up. The backline and the front line have definitely had their back and forth of, turns in feeding when this does happen. So it's all about when the pressure is on, are they going to be able to keep the stability? Because thus far this season, they haven't been able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, but they are showing us great coordination and some superb setups and game plans. One of them made it into our crunch time presented by Pringles Wavy, and that, of course, has to be the Goose himself.
The Goose.
Do you want to take it away, Costa? Here's the main support.
No. You say it. I'm just going to enjoy it for a little bit, and then I'll follow up with what you say.
All right, so here we have Big Goose from the LA Gladiators synchronizing with OG's Halt, using the boot mechanic on Lucio to boot them off the map, resulting in 4 kills for the LA Gladiators main support. Costa, your thoughts?
This is just, you love to see it. So the way the suck mechanic works is that it stops all their momentum, which allows Big Goose to have this massive range when he pushes them. He almost got fusions there as well. So I was pretty confused what Big Goose was doing up here the whole time. I'm like, this doesn't it's cool that he's doing it, but I didn't think it had any viability. But this is like, you're playing a card game, and as soon as they walked out that left door, they're like, haha, you've activated our trap card, and then they suck boop and just kill everybody. So that was the moment that you just sort of, the boss and Uprising just sort of be like, yeah, this is not gonna get any better.
How gratifying is that, Costa, as a pro player and as a support player, to have these kind of setups and then they just work out big times like that?
Getting a 4-man boop? Never done it. But I've got 2-man boops before.
Not relatable. Watched a lot of them happen, though.
I've watched a lot of them, and you see it. They have so much impact. Charging the ultimates, getting a lot of value. These plays it's like psychological warfare in a way, and it makes you feel so confident as a player and as a team. So really cool to see the Gladiators, executing these kind of things.
Absolutely, and confidence is key. We've seen that time and time again, that teams which may not be the top dog going into a match, if they came in with confidence, that can be a game changer. So let's see if their opponents can get it together in that second half and maybe start their comeback. So Boston fans, send some good energy towards your team, as they will need it. Currently, the Gladiators are looking very dominant. So for all the action, we're heading back onto Anubis and back to Uber and Mr. X. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Good to have you back, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Overwatch League. So far in this series, the Los Angeles Gladiators, Matt, they look imperious. They have taken the Uprising to task, at least on the other side of that halftime break. Now there's a chance for Boston Uprising to redeem themselves and stay in the series, but it has to happen here. It has to happen on the Temple of Anubis.
Yeah, it has not looked good, though, so far for the Boston Uprising. Like we mentioned earlier in the matchup, the Boston Uprising have never lost to the Gladiators, like in franchise history. We do have one sub coming in for Temple of Anubis. It is going to be Mirror, who comes in for Kevster. So we saw them do this the other day on Anubis to get Mirror to play the Doomfist. A lot of Doomfist rollouts you can use on Temple of Anubis first on offense. Get a dive going for the Winston.
That we saw him play?
Doomfist and Junkrat.
Things, right?
We saw him play Junkrat on defense, yeah. It was a really quick game, so they didn't really play much else, but yeah.
Generally, we've seen Kevster do or perform May duties for the most part. And maybe, look, you're a team like the Uprising, or sorry, like the Gladiators, and you're going on to Temple of Anubis, you think, maybe we don't want to play like May Lucio Rush setups on attack or defense. Maybe we want to, start to leverage like the individual prowess of Mirror on some of these sort of different heroes, like whether it's a Junkrat on defense to punish any advances through the choke. Holt is so strong right now, and if you get halted and you start eating Junkrat grenades, you're going to have a really bad time. Doomfist obviously can also combo with that ability, but Junkrat is powerful, and he is enabled by Orisa, preventing teams from being able to speed through chokes, just yanking them back out into the open and saying, nope, you're going to sit here and take this damage.
Yeah, for the Gladiators, I assume from what we saw the other day, it'll be Doom on offense and Junkrat on defense. That's also providing that they're able to get through the Junkrat. That'll be for the Boston Uprising, but it looks like that'll be on defense. A lot of damage for Boston. Zen Batiste, Orisa Sigma with Junkrat and Ashe. This is one where now you look at it, the Gladiators, it's like, well, do you want to try and play the neutral game in terms of damage with the way you played Lucio the entire time? You probably want to get aggressive and dive, or play maybe even like Reinhardt Rush. So we'll see what the Gladiators decide to do. And this is kind of exactly what they played the other day. No Zarya in the mix, so you can play D.Va. Yep, there it is from space. And then Mirror on the Doomfist. What they did the other day is they had OG and Mirror both get on each of the statues by the choke, and then converge on a dive onto the platform.
So the Gladiators still, want to make a dive, but they start off by trying to stay out of line of sight. They use these two, I guess they are Anubis statues. I'm not really familiar with the mythos from this time, but...
if anyone was wondering, if he's not familiar, I definitely am not. I called them statues.
I don't know, are they sets?
About as technical as I get.
It's the Doge, dude. It's the Temple of... I don't know if Anubis is the Doge or not. Okay, so the Uprising know what the Gladiators are trying to do.
Yep.
But will that help them? How much does having some sort of foresight here protect them? All right, so it's just Punk and Fusion's playing on the high ground right now. We saw very quickly Calahex got out of dodge. Jerry playing in the background here. A lot of pressure on Space, who's low and discorded.
Yeah, this is going to allow Shazo to farm up a nano boost. And you're totally okay with this if they're the Gladiators. You just keep putting pressure with the Winston and the D.Va onto the platform. You can use a nano boost now on OG, and you can really dive in.
Already. That is insane. Mirror flanking Jerry. Oh no! Well, he gets the knuckle sandwich from Mirror, and the rest of the Gladiators now can just rotate to the point. Both DPS players are down for the Uprising, and their tanks are huddled together in this small room, which is very easy for Space to get micro rocket value. Mirror the only player to fall there, and wow, it looked elaborate, but for the Gladiators, for the individuals, it was as simple as getting your job done.
Are the Uprising switching off this? They use an amp matrix there in the room.
They don't switch, so they stay with Batiste here, and look, that's the kind of play that puts you at serious risk of getting snowballed out of the round. In fairness, Jerry gets enough damage that he builds a Bob. Yeonbong pretty close to a Transcendence as well. The Uprising, I mean, obviously, they need to get those ultimates online properly before this fight begins, but they don't really have a chance to. They can't get line of sight on the Gladiators, so they can't apply any poke damage and generate ultimates yet.
They're waiting for Birdring. They're trying to farm an EMP here. You could get EMP, maybe have OG step out, take some extra damage. Yep, take some extra damage. You can start farming up the nano. You see Colorhex almost doesn't want to shoot him. He doesn't want to shoot him because they know they're just sitting here, just taking the poke damage, farming nano boost, plus sound barrier and EMP.
Shaz almost has his next one, by the way. Colorhex realizes he can't kill any target individually, and he's just fed Shaz his ultimate. Nothing to be done about that. Birdring knows in 1 second. Oh no. Oh no! Lights out! And the supercharger likely just got turned off as well based on where Birdring was standing. So big window for the Gladiators now to push up. Sound barrier used by Big Goose, and even Nano Boost has been employed. If this doesn't work for the Gladiators, things could get a little dicey. They need to follow through with the rest of this fight as Mirror is hit with an accretion. As soon as he touches down, not quite as nice as the Falcon lander, but we'll take it. Back to the point now, and here's that transcendence that the Uprising were trying to farm up. That'll buy them some more time as well, but without fusions, the rest of their players lack adequate protection. They'll push forward though, and say the best defense is a good offense.
Yeah, really good D there from the Boston Uprising. He almost survived through that huge onslaught of ultimates that the Gladiators threw at them. Sound barrier, self-destruct, EMP, meteor strike. They threw everything at him, but able to contest the point long enough, keep players rotating in and out to not even give up a tick. So now Boston gives themselves a chance of putting together a really good point B defense. Change for the Gladiators, 2 changes. Space over to Sigma, and then Mirror going to play the Junkrat. So get Birdring now on Ashe, so maybe you kind of play like left side, create some angles, see if OG can get into the back. You're going to have a nano boost yet again, so we'll see another nano Winston combo.
Shaz, it's 1 minute and 5 seconds for every ultimate that he's built so far, which is extremely good. And equates to, every fight at the moment. Okay, here's an air matrix. Over the top goes OG, and oh my, just makes a Halo pancake. Colorhex now trying to go at least for a molten core control over on the point. The Gladiators don't seem to be too bothered by it right now. Jerry's trying to fight his way out of this corner. At least he has Punk with him, but his Sigma is low, and with fusions down, this is all the durability of the Uprisings concentrated on this part of the map, not on the point. They're unable to contest, and that's the first tick that's given away. The second will be right behind it.
Look at the pressure that OG and Space are putting onto the Boston Uprising. Pushing into this back left corner. This will be Punk with a Gravitic Flux. Not sure it gets much of anything. His fusions gets onto the point, contests with the Wrecking Ball, but looks like Boston mounting a late comeback.
This is good. Okay, the Uprising can stabilize once more here. Colorhex is getting, over the course of these fights, increasingly more value. Gets close to another Molten Core, not too far away, and, while the Gladiators have farmed up yet another nano boost, the Uprising stand in an okay position, at least, to get Myeonbong fired up. But who gets nanoed on the Uprising? Sigma? Urisa?
Torbjorn.
Oh, God. Say it isn't so, Matthew.
The overloaded nano boost Torbjorn is in play, potentially. The Gladiators have a nano boost as well, as they have OG play the Orisa here. I like the Orisa call. Now you can kind of play over in this left-hand side. You can poke a little bit more with the Junkrat. This will be the Riptire. Open things off.
Mira sends it, gets fusions, but he loses his life, and it is the nano boost on towards Sigma right now. Space doesn't fancy fisticuffs with his opposite number presently. Gravitic Flux looks like a good catch on that one, but he needs to avoid the Molten Core. Yep, well, the Flux is going to draw the Uprising off the point, and they couldn't contest even with the floor being lava.
And you see how huge having a halt in play there is OG gets a nice halt in that back right-hand side area by the spawn. It's a Gravitic Flux from Space, and that ends up having the Gladiators get both points. This is where you'll see Mirror probably play the Junkrat on defense. Yep, play Junkrat, control that bridge area. What do the Boston Uprising go to, though? We've kind of talked throughout the series, messing with a little bit of dive and aggression, some more static shield play. Nothing really kind of like the Gladiators with like a shield rush comp that we've seen from the Uprising yet. The Uprising probably would love a scenario where they can get fusions eventually if the meta shakes out that way on like a Reinhardt and a rush comp, right? Echo here at the start. We'll see if this actually works for Boston.
Yeah, this is the Charlie Niner. Colorhex couldn't get past the junk in the trunk to touch the point. That's the way it happens, and OG there just taking up as much space as he can. And the Gladiators with a minute and 17 to work with here. So, oh, you know, who was it that I was watching? Was it Gator that played Wrecking Ball on this map before? It can be really powerful if you just want to, you know, control that platform, knock everybody off it. Obviously, Orisa, if she sees that coming, she'll fortify and stand her ground.
Yeah, the Wrecking Ball's good to like divert attention here. Like roll all the way back to the points, try and draw some pressure off of the bridge. I don't know if it'd be like the go-to strategy.
I love the siege warfare, like the trebuchet accretion that just flies over the it's so good. Oh man, must be like something out of Monty Python trying to get into the castle. Anyway, here's the dynamite now being used. Bird ring wants to try and match Jerry's contribution so far.
So see, how does Color Hex get through the choke now?
Well, it depends what... Okay, so Bird ring's forced out of position, but yeah, it looks like Jerry wants to try and control him as much as he can to give that safety to Color Hex, but oh, that's so risky. Somebody's got to do something about Bird ring posted up in the back corner here, or the Uprising need to maybe change their tact a bit.
Now they put themselves in a weird spot where they can get pinched on in. Mirror can come down the stairs here, just cause a ton of problems with his Junkrat. As that's the type of scenario you definitely don't want to put yourself in against the Junkrat, especially when the other team can play the Lucio and run you down. You use the Junkrat like close range, like grenades, like a shotgun. Just kind of run in, burst them down.
Boston now still have a bit of time and a couple of options here. I wonder though how they get use out of an Ant Matrix, Matt, when they all get sort of forced out of chokes by this Junkrat, right? Where do they really place this? How do they find value outside of Jerry? I mean, maybe Halo can get up on the high ground and set it up for Jerry, but either way, it seems tough to get value. I think it's been used there, and it was a Halt to try and follow it up, but Fusions looked like he was playing with nerfed Halt. Riptire. Oh, yeah, getting rid of Halo with the trade though. Again, Color Hex is able to hunt Mirror down while he is defenseless using the Riptire.
Still, you're not going to be able to push in without Halo, so you still have to wait here if you're the Uprising. The positive for Boston is, they're going to be without air for a bit, so a lot of damage that would go down at the choke. This is a good opportunity, though, for the Boston Uprising. A minute and 50. Mirror probably is going to be back in a second. I was going to say, you have Bob, you have a bunch of other ultimates coming in soon.
Okay, that's the whole, another M Matrix now being used this side from the Gladiators. Bob from Jerry doesn't get a whole lot done except just beat some ult percent over to Big Goose and Shaz.
Now we're waiting more.
No.
And the Bob doesn't really get much of anything.
No, I mean, it looks like he's sent to the high ground, but I don't really understand. He's not really CCing anyone. I guess it's extra pressure, but the Gladiators just disengage and they get out of line of sight, right? And so it's just the Bob's damage that they're actually dealing with at that time.
And an Ant Matrix Junkrat is enough damage to deter you from going through the choke.
I'm calling it now. Color Hex has to duplicate Junkrat. He needs to fire 2 grenades in midair and then Riptide before he hits the ground. That's how this has to go. Has to be awfully quick. All right, Burning, that's a Bob, sending towards main. Another Immortality Field has to be used so early on in the fight. Color Hex is down as Bird Ring has found him and Bob's out of the picture, but the damage is already done. Pump now is hoping to bait in for this Gravitic Flux, but the Gladiators already have a sound barrier in play. They're mostly unharmed. Immortality Field also used by Shaz, and the Gladiators are happy to stand their ground here on the low ground now, especially with a supercharger that is very hard for the Uprising to get rid of until maybe now. And again, it's just disengage, back away, wait for reinforcements, and the high ground is still being controlled, man, by the Gladiators. OG is going to be hard to shift.
And you can wait a little bit here if you're the Gladiators. This will be a Bob that comes through from Jerry.
One tick.
You're really trying to get Mirror, potentially this Riptire. Space gets low, has to back up. Punk's going to take him out.
All right, 2 ticks, and the Gladiators kind of botch the retake attempt there, Matthew. Looked like they were more than happy just sort of backing up and giving some ground, but eventually the positioning was so powerful for the Boston Uprising that the Gladiators couldn't wrest control of the point away.
Yeah, they weren't able to find the angle to get some Junkrat damage down. OG had to jump down to contest the point once you lose Space, who is so low in terms of HP. And the Gladiators not able to put together another defensive stand. As you lose Mirror here early, that's tough.
Well, the Gladiators are in a position where they could actually go down or go behind on time bank if the Uprising are able to come up with the goods early. Early picks here, though, do not bode well for Boston, and the blue and yellow have to head for the hills early.
All right, so 2 minutes, 20 on the clock, about for the Uprising. You don't have a dragon yet, so you can't be able to like combo that, let's say with like a halt, or we've seen combo with the dragon and the gravitic flux.
What's the
you
win
still have the
then?
threat of this tire. It's tough. You don't really have like, especially in like the way this meta's kind of shaken out, there's no like a huge win condition like EMP or a blade. And then we lose somebody else here early for the Uprising. You know, 2 fights like this, that burns a minute plus off the clock. Boston already was really drained in terms of time. This is going to put their time almost certainly behind the Gladiators.
It's a nice combo by OG though. He's looked so good on Orisa the last 2 days. That was a hold into what I believe was a remote mine from Mira, or at least a grenade, as Mira was playing quite close to Color Hex. So the Uprising need to get through the choke without losing a player. Simple as that. Another hold here. Halo. Now he's down. OG picks him off now, and his Riptire is looking, pretty redundant. Yeah, it'll be sent back. The entirety of the Uprising will have to deal with it, but this won't matter.
They try and use Amp Matrix like really fast to take out space while he's using the Gravitic Flux, but they're not really close. Now you get a kill on a Big Goose, but you don't have a speed boost to activate on this. So Big Goose will definitely be back by the time we get this next fight kicked off. Boston needs a fight though. Like I said before the next fight kicks off, they haven't really had a fight here on point B. They've just been getting picked off one by one.
Color Hex, again, he wants a good vantage point to play from, but boots on the ground is not really where he wants to be, especially when bird rings happen to challenge him.
Now you don't have Transcendence here.
Mira's going to flank because he can. Jerry. Oh, Jerry! That's unlucky. Here's that Dragon Strike, though, and Space gets caught in the middle of it. Jerry sends a bob out as well, and the Uprising are up in players currently. OG has nowhere to go. He's literally backed into a corner. And now let's see what the Gladiators could put together for a retake. It needs to be awfully quick. Bob is going to help them. So will Sound Barrier, as long as enough players benefit from it. But Big Goose can't even get the ultimate off. He's in midair, and he gets taken down by Fusions. Bob gets to the point. Mira's here on the Doomfist, and OG comes out on the Wrecking Ball now. Color Hex is just looking for a head to shoot. Anything he can find to keep the Uprising in the lead will be huge. Mira gets rid of Myeonbong, so healing slightly reduced for the Uprising, but they still have Halo. They still have the lion's share of that throughput now, and Mira's trying to cause as much problems as he possibly can, but the Uprising, they hang on, and they get the round finished at least.
And it's a huge bob from Jerry. They lose Myeonbong, who has the Transcendence. He's not able to have that in what looked like it would have been the last fight. But the bob is good enough for them to get that point to completion. So with that in play, what the best the Uprising can do is get a draw here. It'll be 1:17 on the clock for the Gladiators to attack.
Los Angeles, again, they can go for something a little more subtle and obviously play that I'll call it subtle because it is a little bit different. The Doomfist dive, with the Diva and the Winston. I don't know if we get to see Roadhog yet, although Roadhog plays Rejoice is on live. He's starting to look a little scarier with that hook combination.
Yeah,
maybe Ice Fishing makes its return.
Yeah, the new meta in Masters Down is Roadhog Zarya. I can't wait to see that. It'll be all the main tanks revolt and Owl and just play Roadhog.
I feel for everybody. Yeah, because they were told by everyone to play Orisa every game for the last 6 months. I don't feel bad. I mean, I'm a support. I like having a shield, right? But when I play tank and have to play Orisa only, I like to mix it up a bit. Big Goose there, unfortunately not able to touch and get the Sound Barrier. I don't think it would have been applied to many more people than just him, though. So it was definitely just to buy some time.
It would have certainly bought some time, though. Sound Barrier would have been huge there.
I mean, how much more time did the Gladiators need? I mean, I guess if they're trying to win...
yeah, it would have been in case of winning, right?
They're still trying to do that here, Matt. They've got 1 minute to get 1 tick on point A. Otherwise, this map goes to a draw. Gladiators
looks
now,
like they
again,
may be
taking the time.
Yeah, they're gonna probably try and play around farming this nano boost potentially. Good damage goes. Yeah, good damage in there for the Gladiators.
Hit by an accretion there and forced to just back off a little bit. But look at Chaz. We keep an eye on him as obviously, we were seeing him every single fight pretty much having a nano boost ready to go. All right, Birdring forced away as well. 1 more push is all the Gladiators have left. They will have a nano boost, sure enough, but that's about it, really.
But it's your best case scenario in terms of a win condition. Nano boost on OG onto the bridge. Birdring gets a touch of the point, the trigger OT.
There it is. Shaz sends OG, goes forward with a wing and a prayer. It's going to be an immortality field used on that high ground, though. Nicely done for Boston. They stave off the first push, but Space is still able to get into the backline and deal with Jerry. He'll be desuited as a result, and they can't touch at all. The Boston Uprising prevent themselves from dropping another map here and the series. They stay alive by securing a draw on the Temple of Anubis.
Yeah, they had an opportunity to touch the point there as Boston is trolling the Gladiators in the chat. Punk ranked that is a rank 2 C9.
It was formidable. It was a formidable C9. Both teams have shown that they can be allergic to the point at times.
Yeah, the Gladiators did have, I believe, a player advantage at that point. Mirror was up on the high ground, Big Goose available as well, but not able to make it towards the point to touch. Boston still had both of their tanks alive, so we'll get another map in the series.
Yeah, I mean, frustrating for the Gladiators, of course, as they're looking to try and find a clean finish to the series. The next map is going to be an interesting one, though, as well. We've got much more to talk about as we head to map 4 in a moment. Gibraltar's coming up, so stick around for that one. Stay tuned. We'll have a quick break, and we'll be right back.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and the Boston Uprising stay alive in a series that looked all but lost before half-time, Matthew. They show a lot of resilience and grit on the Temple of Anubis, and also some pretty darn good defensive play. Thank God for the Torbjorn. Kiwi G providing us again. Bless up.
Yeah.
And now, of course, we head on to Gibraltar, which is, again, a map which we might see some similar compositions as we saw on Anubis, right? We know that, at least the Gladiators like playing a little bit of Winston Diva, which is exciting.
Yeah, potentially. We do have Kevser coming in for Mirror, so most likely not going to see like the Junk or the Doomfist as prevalent. I think this could probably be, whether it's May, whether it's some Sombra play, double hit scan potentially for the Gladiators. on Gibraltar, because we did know that Genji, even Tracer as well, were pretty strong here on Gibraltar over the last few weeks, but now being gone from the hero pool, some opportunity for some different stuff here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We have seen the Boston Uprising try and play a little bit of dive as well. In that first map, it didn't look that great, but I think we really enjoy Myeonbong on Ana in general. That's a really strong pick for him. If Boston do have like an Ana Winston setup on this map, maybe they combine that with like Mercy Ashe, right? Or Mercy Echo. That could be fun to watch. Jerry's Hanzo, we got to see a little bit of in the previous map. Didn't really see enough of it to make any sort of conclusions, but it looks like Boston Uprising have more in the tank than just a double shield that they've sort of struggled to find their feet with. So that should be encouraging to fans out there.
Yes, potentially Mercy play for both teams. Mercy, whether it be with the Echo or Widowmaker, obviously extremely strong. The Gladiators on offense, this composition with the Kevstar on the Widow and Birdring on the Sombra is definitely something that could come into play. So Boston, they will go with Color Hex on the Echo again, and they'll play Jerry on Hanzo. So Hanzo obviously does not have the same range capabilities as, let's say, like a Widowmaker, but does provide the ease of access to the verticality.
Ease of access to the verticality. Well, there's plenty of that on this particular map.
There's a lot of spots where you can go up.
Very high ground oriented, and well, for defenders, it's an important part of what gives them the advantage in some of these fights. So let's see what the Gladiators go for here. Kevster, Bird. Oh, so this is an interesting permutation of this DPS setup. Birdring, Sombra, Kevster actually going to show us the Widowmaker. And Big Goose will be back on the Mercy, presumably at some point to boost Kevster somewhat. We'll see. He doesn't really have much to shoot at right now, Matthew. As you can see, Birdring's on the high ground just waiting for that card to get a bit closer before he makes a foray into enemy lines.
Well, Boston is just backing up, so you don't even have to really kind of push this up on the high ground if you're the Gladiators. Gladiators will probably just move the payload for an extended period of time, trying to get to this corner. It's more the Widowmaker, I think. Like, if they were to collapse there and dive, right, the fight kicks off, the shields are gone, the Widow just kind of nails shots at range. This gives you a little bit of a better shot, where the Widow has to kind of come into what you would consider a closer quarter sightline.
Gives her another peek, met with a shield immediately from Punk. Neither of them can really harass him, so he can just stand there and wait for the shield to go away. And you can see Myeonbong's party grenade there, keeping the Boston Uprising's front line vital. And the car will now start to creep around the corner. Use the dive to the back line again,
Their back line is so open. So OG slipped up top, but yeah. Look how they just kind of split them off.
Who is dealing with OG right now? I guess they're over there. Jerry just finds the shots. He does. OG has to get out and just gets a nano boost. It's going to be another few seconds before it can go high. So instead, he goes low. Pushes in. Primal Rage is there as well. So it'll be tough for the Uprising to get out and actually fight for control at this point now. And yeah, they can't. They walk straight into the Primal map.
That was such a weird start to a map. We had one elimination go down, and then the point was taken. It's just so much space created by OG, and Boston doesn't deal with them. They kind of, with a sleep dart, Myeonbong sleeps him twice. The second time, it's quite unfortunate that Color Hex hits some sticky bombs onto him, wakes him up when he's got Primal and Nano. But a really odd start to the map here.
I mean, Boston look a little uncertain, or at least unsure about when to start the fight. The fact that the Gladiators can just take so much space away from them that only one kill happens and a checkpoint is gained, it should say a lot about that. OG a little low, doesn't want to push forward, but space is healthy enough to drive deep into the back line and get rid of Myeonbong and Jerry. And I've got bad news for you Boston fans out there. Your team is going to struggle to contest this.
All right,
they're not going to bother. They have to give it up. Oh, no!
Yeah. No, they're not close to contesting. Now they get the forward spawn, so they have to jump off. This will give more payload progress. Both teams ended up using Valkyrie in the last fight, so no Valk available for the Gladiators. That's a good sign for Boston, and Boston will come in with 4 ultimates. You're going to need to see something from the duplicates. We haven't really seen much of anything all series with regards to the Echo ultimate, but what's dangerous here for Boston is like one headshot from Kevster puts you really back against the wall. In for sight now.
Fusions pushes up now. Tries to, force people maybe to stand inside that Dragon Strike, but 2 down to the back line of the Uprising are offering less resistance than a cadaver with Rigor Mortis right now. Myunbong is brought back into the fight. Kevston takes a big hit from Jerry in midair, but his opponent is also low. Forced out by that self-destruct, and Color Hex comes out of Duplicate. So the Uprising at least able to buy some space here that could have gone horribly wrong for them after losing 2 to a self-destruct.
Yeah, that was a really good duplicate, though. I believe you had Color Hex able to get 2 of them during that fight. Nano boost available here for Shaz. Most likely he'll go on to OG, and then you'll get a dive with an EMP that's going to come through.
Punk goes down instantly. Their OG makes good use of the Nano boost. Oh, he doesn't really know where to go. What is he looking for? Maybe to control the positioning of the enemy Winston. Maybe to wait for everyone to group up for a big Primal Rage now.
They're waiting for
back
EMP.
in spawn.
Yeah, he's trying to allow Boston to come out of spawn to get a larger EMP, and there it is.
All right, that's a decent EMP. Gravitic Flux catches just Shaz by the looks, and he's kept alive for a little while, but not long enough. Still, the kills go the way of the Gladiators here. Big Goose's Valkyrie is going to help keep them topped up, so they push ahead. Shaz is back in the fight now. Halo once more uses a Valkyrie to no avail. Tries to touch, and he can't. Self-destruct will dissuade any further interference by Boston. And that's the Gladiators ending the round with 3:24 on the clock. A very large amount of time for Gibraltar.
That was blistering, really. From the first, it's so odd. Like, the first point has 1 elimination. They push on forward, they get a round of kills. And then the next fight happens, like, under the bridge towards the second part of the map. And it's just an EMP, and they win that fight. The Gladiators win 2 fights. One of them where it's just 1... elimination and get checkpoints A and B out of that. You won't hold very long on defense, giving up that type of offensive plays there from the Uprising. So let's see what the Uprising come out with here on offense. Color X did get good value out of the duplicate that time. Myunbong also hit a lot of nice sleep darts, but they were not able to really turn it into anything.
That is, yeah, I would say even that fight that the Uprising got value out of, at least that self-destruct, by the way, from space.
Yeah.
Oh my. And Halo gets caught by that? No, it's Myunbong. Okay.
Yeah, and Myunbong gets hit by, Punk gets hit by it, and Myunbong really, because it's a hack that comes in onto Punk, which obviously doesn't allow him to deploy a Sigma shield.
No biggie, just the 2 most high-value targets on the enemy team picked up. I mean, the Uprising, they got 2 final blows on that half. They really gave a lot of ground without being able to inflict too much pain on the Gladiators now. They're on the attacking side, so that approach really won't work here. They're going to have to invest some of those health pools to get some progress.
So let's see how it goes for them in the mirror. This is one of the rare times we'll actually see these teams' mirror compositions throughout the series. There has been a little bit of variance on what either team's decided or wanted to run.
Jerry doesn't feel safe even peeking this right now. That says a lot about the threat being generated by the Gladiators. All right, he doesn't peek until Fusion shows up. He sees a hacked Ana. Or was it Mercy? It was Mercy, yes. She can't find the frag, though. And again, either one of those targets getting peeked by Jerry, they would be huge, but he takes a glancing blow from Kevster across the map. And, oh, Birdring finishes the job, Matt.
Yeah, and his supports are so far away, right? Because you're trying to keep the tanks alive, the supports you see here just trying to keep each other alive. So nobody able to go back, give Jerry any type of healing. That allows Birdring to finish him off. Nice sleep dart yet again from Myunbong. See if they're able to even capitalize on that. No, not going to be able to finish off OG.
Yeah, he tried. Punk was hoping to make something happen there, but I mean, what are you expecting to get done when space turns up with Defense Matrix protects his comrade? Heart is being contested.
Even trying to hit a biotic grenade at that angle, right? I mean, he's up there on the bridge, like, would have been really difficult.
Yeah, even if you're, Jerry, trying to find a headshot, you might have to grapple upward or peek around the corner somehow. Either way, the card's going, it's a nano boost now to Fusion, so he has to do something with this, and he gets rid of Birdring. But it's a trade. Both stoppers are down for these teams, and Color Hex could have built himself an EMP in this fight. Big Sleep Dart connection on Fusions. Punk now trying to dive in the absence of his main tank, and he is also forced away. It's Space to the rescue now. Gives up his mech, goes for a self-destruct, and will resuit as quickly as possible, and Punk can't do a damn thing about it.
It is so good to see Space back on the D.Va. The defense matrix there to keep Shaz alive was perfect. Self-destruct over the top, though, was Boston. continues to move the payload. This will be a nano boost here used on the OGs. The Gladiators still trying to fight.
Nano. Oh, the biotic grenade as well on towards Fusion's made that pretty darn hard for him to stick around. Nano boost delivered by Shaz means the Gladiators have enough fuel in their tank here just to trickle back out in 1s and 2s, but their main tanks are so durable with that extra protection, plus space using the defense matrix and a nano boost. Boston Uprising didn't have the players left to get through.
All right, but for Boston, though, you do have this EMP from Color Hex. You have to make sure you connect with Big Goose, though, because if you don't connect with Big Goose and they just Valk in and heal everybody up, you're not going to get a ton of value from it.
OG. Again, where does he choose to go? Maybe just to pressure Myeonbong more, but Myeonbong gets off the nano boost early here. And you can see on the wireframe, Big Goose is just trying to stay away from the Winston as much. Oh, he slept. Oh, Fusion's had a nano completely shut down. And that was one of the key hopes for the Uprising. Now they need to kind of bank on a setup with an EMP self-destruct, maybe. It's a little bit, I don't know, convoluted, but that's all they've got left. And with 38 seconds, Matt, something's got to give.
Yeah, they have to be careful, though. I mean, you EMP and you don't connect with, like, Shaz or Big Goose, right? You get a nano boost off, self-destruct from space, and EMP from Bird Ring, and you're not going to be able to convert this if you're Boston.
Color Hex, focus on him right now. An EMP to end this. Look at space. Just delivers a defense matrix to keep his widow alive. And OG sent Myeonbong off the edge. He gets hacked, but he still has flailing fists of fury, and he's going to be able to force at least the translocate away by Color Hex. But the Sombra keeps that EMP. Birdring wants to contest right now, but is also forced to translocate away, and there it is. Space gets an EMP dropped on him, and Big Goose goes down immediately. Shaz is able to still do most of his healing right now, but he's getting pressured on his own here.
Okay, that kill is huge now that you got Shaz out of the way. I was going to say, it's not going to be enough because OG in space still here. EMP for Bird Ring.
Could be big. Punk doesn't have a defense matrix right now. He's hacked. Trying to get back in his mech in some way, but he's picked off before he could. Self-destruct, I think he had it available, but that EMP made it impossible for him to refresh his mech. Now, Jerry, well, who does he find? He needs to find a key target. Fusions goes in, biotic grenade to heal him up, and oh no. He had, Fusions. Oh. The C9, Matthew. We saw it happen. Doesn't need to be much more said than that.
And OG in the chat after Punk said rank 2 C9 for the Gladiators on Anubis. OG's just spamming rank 1 C9. Oh, that was tough.
I mean,
that one was tough.
I mean, it was a tough series from start to finish for Boston, Matt, but look, I mean, it happens like that. The Winston was in a decent position. There was a D-suit on the enemy Diva. Space got D-suited and Fusions had Primal Rage, but I mean, everything had descended into chaos by that point.
And I believe Fusions was hacked during that, so couldn't like jump back towards the payload. And I don't think anybody else. I think Halo is up in the sky using Valkyrie. Yeah, that's a tough way to lose for Boston.
Yeah, I mean, and you could go over the VODs there as much as you like over the course of this series, but that wasn't the first time that it seemed as if the Uprising weren't all on the same page. In fact, it happens quite a lot. I think a great comparison is looking at how Space is able to peel for his backliners so effectively with that defense matrix. Space is balancing, defense matrixing his Winston and turning around and keeping his Widow alive when Kevs is getting pressured down by an enemy Sombra or something similar. So, look, the Gladiators look extremely well drilled. A little bit of messed things up a little bit, of course. We saw in Temple of Anubis, but that was, I think, more Boston coming up with a really good defense setup here. But this is how it went down, Matt.
This. Yeah.
Talk me through it.
So you see Fusions go in. He's going to primally get hacked right there. Can't make it back. It looks like that's a boop that comes through from Big Goose as well to knock both players away from the cart. So really tough. The one thing I will say though is like the fight ends there, the game ends there, and you know it's a kind of like a funny moment, right? But Boston with an opportunity to make it way easier on themselves. They had an EMP. There was nothing really available for the Gladiators to use. And they kind of like, they didn't really set anything up with it. Like, Color Hex kind of like pressured the Widow out on the high ground, and it allowed OG in space to really dive into the back line of the Uprising. And then the best EMP they get is just like a 2-player EMP underneath the bridge. Like, they could have like played around cart, played a little bit slower, tried to get a good angle. I mean, you have a Widow to kind of keep the other Widow honest. I think they probably could have played that whole ending sequence better.
I mean, they have an incredible hitscan player in Jerry, right? Being able to get the most out of him is something that all teams kind of want to be able to do with their star players. And yeah, a player of the match presented by Xfinity, Matthew, is going to be Big Goose. I think over the course of this series, he's looked so good. Yeah, they've been flashy environmental kills, but it's the little things like that we need to take a replay to go and look at and look at the fine print. And that's where you see Lucio players and Big Goose especially continuing to put in these huge performances. And it's great to get a chance to shine a spotlight on him.
Yeah, the biggest thing for the Gladiators today was having the Lucio in play. They were able to play these rush compositions where Boston did not really attempt to, and just control the pace of play. Good Mercy play on Gibraltar at the end, but really the highlights on Lucio all day. Big beats against the Gravitic Fluxes, and also just keeping the pace and the tempo high for the Gladiators. Playing that Lucio all day long, that's why we gave Big Goose the player of the match.
Actually, really quite a large number of final blows there as well. You notice that Big Goose actually... we don't talk about accuracy for Lucio players very much, because most of the time they're just holding mouse 1. But we see Big Goose getting involved in a lot of those kills. And again, when he's left free to do what he wants, set up with halts, these big boops, and we get those highlight clips from him. He's part of, I'd say, a pretty select few of those Lucio players who manage to take over games often by themselves. And it's got nothing... it's not necessarily this rigorous mechanical process that they apply, but it's imagination, it's insight, and it's experience to be able to know when you have these opportunities to take the game into your own hands. Congratulations to Goose and the Gladiators, and now we have a chance to hear from the man himself who've let him loose with Custer for an interview.
Yes, thank you very much, Mitch. I am here with Big Goose. The Goose was definitely loose in this match. Thanks for joining me. What are your thoughts on the game? It was a pretty clean one for the most part.
Yeah, I kind of individually played pretty bad on the Anubis, but otherwise I felt really good, and I think as a team we did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys definitely look like you're on the up, and I saw a lot of you, May, McCree, with you on the Lucio. You think that's meta, or do you think that's just personal preference for you guys right now?
Maybe a little bit of both. At least for what this week has been like. You never know what next week is gonna look like, but something along those lines, I think, for sure.
Yeah, do you generally see a lot of movement in the meta? Like the first week of a hero pause is usually pretty up in the air for the most part, but it sort of redefines itself in the second week. Do you expect to see that more going into next weekend?
There's a possibility for this week, but I think it's less likely than other weeks. You saw Atlanta run some Bastion, Symmetra, so you never know what teams are gonna think of for like the next week.
Yeah, and you guys playing against Dallas, who play pretty much permanently Pharah, so everyone's all over the place. So we just watched your Lucio 4K on Iconwall. That's the Lucio's dream right there. Is that? I assume that's like a set play, and why you guys are kind of spawn camping in that spot.
It's a set play, but it's something like we do in scrims and we do in the like moment. Like all of our holds are more in the like moment, and then they kind of like we just end up there. So and yeah, that's what usually happens. We just talk about it during the scrim or during the match, and yeah, I think we're able to do a lot more on the fly stuff, I think.
Yeah, it looked good, and I've been really impressed with you guys in the last two matches. Obviously, against you've had two easier opponents. You have the Mayhem next week. Is this kind of an important match for you guys going into the playoffs, because you haven't really had any like big wins against top teams other than like the shock at the very start of the season? So is this like a confidence thing for you guys?
I think for next week we can definitely build up some momentum for the playoffs. I think we haven't had like maybe the results we have wanted so far, but I think we're definitely like getting there to like find ourselves. I think we have had this like problem a little like in the past for now, but I think we're like on the right tracks right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So one last question. We've seen a lot of flexibility from you guys, primarily Mira, who's playing pretty much everything under the sun, including Brig of your role. What goes behind that thinking? Is that the coaching? Is that the team? Just whoever fits in that particular week?
I think it was, it's kind of like, I was struggling a lot in the Mira comps when it's Orisa Sigma. I think that was like one of the reasons why we did that. And Chris like also has like a good break, so we decided like why not do this? It was mainly done by coaches and it worked in scrims, so yeah, why not?
Sounds like you have great transparency in the team. Well, congratulations, Big Goose, on another win, and thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No worries. Okay, guys, we're heading into a quick break, and then we have the rematch between the San Francisco Shock and the Philadelphia Fusion. Stick around.